We need to put children first. And if this is going to be one more thing that will help us to help those children learn and get where they need to be, then we should be doing it.
It's getting time to end all those.
Teachers have so much on their plate. If they just think of it not as one more thing, that it is a tool to help them to be able to look at not just one area of the child, but 5 domains of their learning, which is so important. We have to always strive to be advocates for those children and trying to get to know them as learners and help them get to the next level in their learning.
The K-3 formative assessment process focuses on the whole child. The assessment process occurs within the instructional routine, rather than as an isolated event apart from instruction. It can occur in a variety of settings, through observation, probing, listening, reviewing student work, and more.
It's me growing what?
Roses.
Roses. What does roses start with? In my classroom, assessment and instruction go hand in hand. I'm constantly watching and observing children every day to see what kinds of things they're doing, what skills they have acquired, what skills they still need support with, and trying to figure out what their next steps are.
Okay, Ramaya, what were you painting here?
My classroom environment and schedule really lends itself to gathering assessment data throughout the day. Just from the first thing in the morning when they come in and they have that free choice to work at a table, to work with a peer or work by themselves, I'm able to either join them in their activity and take informative assessment through that, or pull some to the side and do either progress monitoring or some other tool that I need to assess with them.
Two.
The way that I make time for assessment is I try to integrate it with the instruction and the experiences that I'm providing for the children. I'm providing this large, uninterrupted block of time for children to, say, build a structure in blocks. But while they're building, I may be over there with them, listening to them, assessing what they know about shapes, assessing what they know about balance. I may be assessing their literacy in that they're making signs for that structure. So, and I also try to be very intentional about some of the performance tasks or even suggestions that I make to them during that center time so that I can get the information that I'm trying to get. What 2 letters make that first part of the?
T.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another way to do that is to really think about planning opportunities for children that are open-ended so that children can respond in lots of different ways in the way that they are learning the best. So just like with children counting, there's lots of opportunities for children to count. You can do that with a circle time game and activity, or you could plan a specific math station, or even in the math center, providing some materials that are engaging to children and help pique their natural curiosity. And then your interactions with them are what really help you to glean the information that you need to from them.
Hey, but something like that can be an
Can I show you a trick?
Formative assessment is truly important. I think all too often we focus too much on summative, but there's so many different things that happen in the classroom, like for instance in the block section. They measure things in blocks and then count the blocks. Just so many different practices, so many imaginative ways in order to instruct and to assess.
Teachers can learn about and collect information about their students in a variety of ways during instruction. This can happen with photos, recordings, notes, work samples, talking with families, and building relationships with children.
I'm constantly watching my kids to learn about where they are and what level they're on and what needs they have and where I need to push them further. So I'm using observation when they're working in centers, when they're making those choices. I'm watching what choices they're making, where do they feel safe, and where do I need to push them to take risks. Collecting information when we're working in small groups, when we're doing guided reading lessons, small group math lessons. There's times when I am sitting one-on-one with a child doing a checklist, might be a letter or a sound checklist. We're using M-Class data to help guide my instruction that way. A lot of pictures and photographs we're taking of children while they're working to gather that data.
I use my iPad a lot to take photographs and videos.
Taking that little quick picture, it doesn't seem to bother them. It doesn't seem to get in their way of being engaged and thinking about what they're doing. You're wanting to see them thinking and problem solving or constructing. Then gathering documentation.
I do take a lot of anecdotal notes that, while I'm observing, or it may even be that while I'm having them perform a task, I may take some notes. That allows me to capture information right then, and that's mostly through notes and me questioning or maybe even teaching them something and then seeing how they use that information that I gave them. That was so close, wasn't it? I'm glad I took a picture of it so that we've got it on record, don't we? That was so close. Are you going to try another one?
They generate all kinds of documentation and evidences of their learning just by having the right environment with the right materials and the adults being supported.
I think I would have been scared too.
It starts from day one, and from the home visit, getting to know the family, getting to know the child.
Where?
The number one way, I feel like, is establishing the relationship with them, because I feel like you've got to do that before you can find out a lot of things that they know. And so I establish that relationship with them by listening, by talking, by interacting and playing, and supporting them through centers. You have to find out, okay, what does this child know in all these domains that you're responsible for supporting them in.
It's different in that I actually have a platform to apply it to. It helps me to focus on specific areas of children's development that I always thought about and watched for, but didn't necessarily have a formal way to document.
How many?
KEA is a really strong step in the right direction about authentic assessment. I think all too often we focus on sight words and rote counting and all that kind of thing. And it, like I said, there are wonderful ways to get to that. But when I studied and looked at what the KEA measures, it goes to really base skills that lead to all of that. So if a child can't cross the midline, if a child can't have certain social skills, you can't get to what the state says is, what a child should know. It's really exciting. I think teachers have to be supported and get repeated professional development in order to be comfortable with the tech tools.
The evidence gathered during the assessment process is used to guide instruction, helping the children grow more completely as learners.
We use this information to help plan our instruction. For instance, it might be during reading workshop. I might see that perhaps a child is not using their good reading finger, not attending to text. So I'll make a note of that. And then it might be, I may right then use that information and try to teach that. It may be that maybe the next day when I'm working with that child during a guided reading lesson, I may make sure that I teach that or address that. We study those things that we find out about them so that we can then adjust what we're teaching, tweak it maybe, and definitely differentiate.
The K-3 formative assessment process includes kindergarten through third grade and addresses early grade reform that will allow children to be more engaged in the learning process.
We're trying to lead a change from the ground up to go to more play and center-based learning. So I feel like our pre-K and the kindergarten really have it. Our first grade, we have physically changed some rooms and tried to get some folks trained in a different way. And also taking them to see other teachers who are comfortable in this. This is my third year in a pre-K 5 school. I would say, coming from a middle school background, to have an open mind about how instruction works at different levels. Center-based and play-based learning looks different as you move up through the spectrum. So I would say to administrators, one, encourage your teachers to not be afraid to take risks, to not be afraid to make mistakes, to not be afraid to rearrange their room, to get away from worksheets and other abstract ways of instruction. All too often we view classrooms as extended library. When someone walks into a classroom, if children aren't seated in rows and columns and seated quietly and pushing pencils, that's learning. And it isn't. Learning is interaction, it's conversation, it's touching things, it's manipulating things. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to grow. And honestly, it is a paradigm shift in terms of how we think educating children should be. So that's something that us as administrators have to learn to let go and support our teachers in doing that.